Well, this afternoon I decided I would come out and do another video. I just filled the bird feeders, got seed all over me doing that. So I went and got me a cigar, my notepad, and I thought I would tell you what I've been putting off telling you about the constellations. Today I'll be smoking this. Kaylin likes the wrapper. It's by Rocky Patel. I like Rocky Patel, but I'll let it sit down for now. First, as a kid, I was scared of the dark. I've been scared of the dark even like through my teens. It wasn't until I started working night shift when Kaylin was little that I really got over my fear, because that's all I was awake during, just the dark, and I got used to it. And one of the things that helped was the sky, the stars, moon, planet. When my grandfather died, Grandfather Lucky, I got his old spotting scope, and I would sit out on the roof of the apartment with that and look at the moon. And I was able to see the moon in great detail. I was also able to see Saturn. I saw the rings of Saturn with that spotting scope. And then, you get apps that show the night sky, where everything is, and it makes things a whole lot easier. But I believe my first memory of the night sky was when my grandfather Roe, we were visiting one night, and we were out on the back stoop, and he pointed the moon out to me, which I knew it was the moon, but he was pointing out the man in the moon. He says, "Do you see the man in the moon?" And I was like, "No, I don't see the man in the moon." So let me draw. I was looking for a literal man jumping up and down on the moon like an astronaut that we had left there. And I looked and I looked, and I could not see a little man on the moon. And he kept saying, "There it is, there it is." And he was getting very put out with me. But what he failed to have me look for was the crater formations, which made the moon a face. And it wasn't until much later I realized what he was talking about, and I wasn't looking for a literal man on the moon. But I could tell he was so disappointed in me that I could not see it. It wasn't until later, during the honeymooners, that you see the moon change into the man in the moon, which ended up being Jackie Gleason's face. And so I will always remember that as my failure, disappointment I was to my grandfather. But then when Kaylin was born, wanted to do so much with, they had glow-in-the-dark constellations that you could put up, and I put those up in her room. Just neat, just because I never had anything like that. But to be able to turn off the light and look at the stars in your room, that was so neat. And they also had little planets, and I grew up with 9 planets, and so that's what she had, 9 planets. It wasn't until she got a little older that they decided to make Pluto not classified as a planet anymore, so that knocks us down to 8. But I always grew up with 9. So but I had learned the planets in order. And I did. And Mercury, Venus, Earth, Mars, Jupiter, Saturn. Then after Saturn was Uranus, Neptune, then Pluto. And you got interior planets and exterior planets from an asteroid belt that's out there. You got your visible planets, non-visible planets. The planets are only visible up through Saturn. I'm not even sure you can see Mercury, it's so small. But when you see them in the night sky, they usually see them first, and they're usually what appears to be the brightest star. And but they're not stars, they're just a reflection of the sun. They're the planets, and they move quicker. Stars stay in place a little bit longer. And I learned at night to be able to tell time of the day at night, pretty much from the tracking of the stars. And it was in usually September that you start to see Orion. And that was always my favorite time of year, when Orion was in the night sky. Orion's easy to spot because of its belt. There's other constellations that I find easy to spot. Most people know about the Big Dipper, Little Dipper, which is Ursa Major, Ursa Minor, Big Bear, Little Bear, that's what they're called. Cassiopeia looks like a sideways W. But there's a whole lot of other ones that are so intricate and hard to tell. And it's hard to tell when you have a lot of light pollution. When we lived out in the country or would go out to church at Little Rock, the light pollution was very minimal, and you could see the entire Milky Way, and that was neat. Also, when Kaylin was still in the carrier out at Little Rock, that is when Halley's Comet came by, and I think it comes by every 76 years. I took her out to see it. She won't remember it because she was in the carrier. But I told her, I said, there is a chance that she will get to see it again when she's an old lady, but I never will. There's a lot of wonder in the sky when you look up, and it makes you feel small. But I so enjoyed taking Kaylin out, holding her in my arms and pointing out the planets and the stars. I've seen a meteor shower in the backyard here, that because I was working at night and I was able to come by, and that was a wonderful sight. I never saw so many shooting stars. Just I could imagine how wonderful it looked if I was out in the country where there wasn't so much light pollution. But I enjoyed pointing out the stars and learned the planets: Mercury, Venus, Earth, Mars, Jupiter, Saturn, Uranus, Neptune, and Pluto. I learned that most of these planets were named after Roman gods. So there's just a lot of studying that you could do, and watching the moon is beautiful. There's a lot of peace at night when you can look at the stars, and when you recognize the constellation, you have a friend. It makes the night not so scary. I hope you can see the man in the moon, and if you don't, I won't be disappointed in you. If you can see the moon, that's enough. Remember, I like the stars. I like looking at the sky. I like spending that time with God, thanking God for the blessings of noticing me throughout all that majesty. He loves you. So do I. I love you. Now it's time to light this bad boy up. Bye.